Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to an impromptu edition of WAWR Chats. My name is Joseph Herron. Welcome to the program, guys. Before we move forward with the program, we do want to advise everyone, if they could, please subscribe to WAWR Radio and hit the like button. Don't be afraid to comment on what we're going to be discussing this evening. We just found out, reported by Jake Donovan of Boxing Scene, that Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter, the WBO World Boxing Organization, has formally ordered a welterweight showdown between Terence Crawford and his mandatory challenger, Showtime Shawn Porter. They finally intervened as petitioned by Shawn Porter and TGB Promotions, which is Tom Brown, the promoter of choice from Al Heyman and PBC, right? And this just happened. Now, in accordance to the WBO bylaws, it states, please be advised that the parties herein have 30 days upon issuance of this notice to negotiate and reach an agreement for the above referenced WBO welterweight championship contest. If an accord is not reached within the time frame stated herein, a purse bid will be ordered per the WBO regulations of world championship contests, right? So the two sides have until August 20th to reach an accord in order to avoid a purse bid hearing. Per the WBO rules, a purse bid can be requested at any time during negotiations, particularly if one side deems such talks as unproductive. So guys, don't be surprised if this goes to a purse bid, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because Bob Arum doesn't seem to be in the Terence Crawford business any longer. He already has to pay him $4 million guaranteed per fight. And what broke down negotiations between Crawford and Porter before was that Shawn Porter, to fight Terence Crawford, was looking for a similar payday, publicly claiming that a bid or an offer between $1 and $2 million was downright insulting, right? But the reason why he actually bid this low, because he understands if you declare yourself as mandatory challenger and incite the WBO to intervene, and this goes to a purse bid, Bob Arum understands the rules, and he knows that that means Shawn Porter is only going to be entitled to 25% of the overall purse amount, which would be $1.37 million in this case, given the fact that, well, in his contract, Crawford is entitled to $4 million per outing guaranteed by Top Rank. Now, once again, if Team Heyman and if they want to arrange guaranteeing these purses, just like they did Wilder versus Fury, with Top Rank guaranteeing Fury's purse and PBC guaranteeing Wilder's purse, if they want to handle it that way, Arum would have no problem staging this event. But once again, it would have to be a co-promotional effort on Fox, ESPN. And is there enough money? I mean, obviously, with the amount that these guys are looking for, it's going to have to be placed on ESPN pay-per-view. Once again, Arum is trying to avoid this because he understands that piracy is the biggest issue in boxing currently. When you look at recent pay-per-view numbers that don't include the Paul brothers or Mayweather or Mike Tyson, they've been downright terrible. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people celebrating PBC. In fact, Mayweather Promotions celebrating that, well, Gervonta Davis sold almost 200,000 pay-per-view purchases. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but back in the day, that was considered a flop. Arum has no confidence that the real bosses of boxing, the fans, are going to purchase these events any longer. This is one of the reasons why he's been very clear on trying to make matches for free, mainstream ESPN. And this is the primary reason why previous negotiations between Crawford and Porter initially broke down. Will it be resolved? I don't know. The best case scenario, guys, is Heyman will have to guarantee his fighter's purse if he wants more than $2 or $3 million in this situation. Or this can go to purse bid, and then PBC or Matchroom Sport or any other promoter, including Triller, can bid on this event. Wouldn't that be something if we saw, guys, Crawford versus Porter on Triller in October? Wouldn't that be something? With Evander Holyfield versus Kevin McBride in the co-main event? Regardless, guys, we're finally going to be getting this. Instead of seeing Terence Crawford versus Jose Zepeda in his final fight under his contractual obligation with Top Rank, guys, we're finally going to be getting Terence Crawford versus Showtime Shawn Porter in a long-awaited showdown, guys, to determine the WBO welterweight championship of the world. Guys, I can't wait. So let's take a look at this matchup. You look at Showtime Shawn Porter. This is a guy who has underrated boxing skill, an excellent jab, but because of his size, well, he's resorted to, trying to be the effective aggressor. If he chooses to mix strategy like he did against Errol Spence, boxing at times, firing off combinations from mid to short range, then pivoting around his opponent. If he utilizes and mixes those strategies against Terence Crawford, he could give him a lot of problems. As we've seen in the past, Terence Crawford, if you try to fight him from mid to long range, well, you're going to lose. This guy knows how, not only has some of the best reflexes in the division, but he's also a switch-hitting badass. He can give you different looks from orthodox or southpaw. So Shawn Porter understands that if he closes the distance and fights him on the inside, that's Terence Crawford's weakness. His only apparent weakness, to my eyes, is his inability to really fight proficiently on the inside. That's where he got tagged by Igas Cavallasquez. That's where he got tagged by Jose Benavidez. That's where he got tagged by Ray Beltran. That's where he got tagged by Yuriorkis Gamboa back in the day. And to my knowledge, he really hasn't rectified that shortcoming. In my opinion, this is a great fight and a very competitive one, and it's one that both fighters can win. I'd be interested to see what the opening betting line is, but I'm sure it's going to be Terence Crawford favored by a probably between 3 and 4 to 1 betting favorite, with Shawn Porter listed as a very live 2 to 1 betting underdog. And one of the reasons why that is once again, Terence Crawford has never lost. In fact, upon moving to 147, say what you want about his resume and his level of competition, but he has stopped every single opponent at 147 pounds. If you were wondering whether or not Terence Crawford would be able to carry his power up to 47, well, there's no question about it. He already has. He is a sneaky counterpuncher by trade. And the amount of opportunities that Shawn Porter is going to give him as he's trying to close the distance, that's going to be the I guess, biggest red flag from Shawn Porter. He's going to have to close the distance a lot more intelligently when he fights Terence Crawford. He's going to, and once again, Shawn Porter, he has a deep amateur pedigree and has an excellent jab when he decides to use it. So instead of rushing in against a real marksman, a sharpshooter, and a counterpuncher by trade like Terence Crawford, instead of running in face first, boy, he's going to have to use an intelligent jab using sporadic jabs, hard sticking jabs, touch jabs, and feints to try and offset the timing and rhythm of Terence Crawford. This is a great fight, guys. But in my opinion, don't be surprised if this goes to purse bid, and don't be surprised if another outfit like Triller wins this great fight and bids upwhere near $8 to $10 million for this one. This is a tremendous fight, guys. So I want to see what you guys think about it. Who wins and why? So Joe Strummer joins us, and he says, but is it pay-per-view? Well, this is what Bob Arum was trying to avoid. In his mind, this matchup is not a pay-per-view fight. Once again, Terence Crawford does extremely well on regular mainstream ESPN, right? He always does consistently over 2 million viewers per outing, right? But on pay-per-view, boy, he's fallen well short of that. Failing to even crack the 250,000 purchase mark. And Bob Arum, he believes that this is not a pay-per-view matchup, that this belongs on regular ESPN. Because Showtime Shawn Porter, guys, he's been featured on pay-per-view once, and that was against, well, a very strong A side like Errol Spence Jr. Historically, Showtime Shawn Porter has never been a huge ratings draw or a big ticket seller. He's never even been an A side for any big event. But he's demanding upwhere near $4 or $5 million for this fight. There's the problem. That's why negotiations initially fell apart several months ago when they were discussing this fight between Camp Porter and Camp Crawford. Is it a pay-per-view? Very good question, Brother Joe. And to be honest with you, I don't think so. Neither man has proven that they're a big pay-per-view draw. They're not huge ticket sellers outside of the Omaha area. And this is the problem with this event. How well would it do on pay-per-view? Yes, it's a fight that most boxing diehards have been clamoring for. But as figures have shown, statistics have proven, boxing diehards are no longer purchasing these events. They're illegally streaming them. The mainstream and casual demographic seem to be the only ones purchasing these events, which is why we see the Logan Paul and Jake Paul being the two biggest draws in boxing currently. Boy, it's embarrassing. But if you don't like it, guys, you've got to purchase these events. And I understand why you're reluctant to purchase these events. Because for decades, the promoters and networks have been gouging the fight fans, charging them premium dollars to witness every single premier matchup. For decades, guys, this has been happening. So now that diehard fight fans finally have a way to stream these illegally, that's how they justify it. They're like, you know what? The boxing business, the promoters, they owe us. So we're going to stream these damn things illegally. As long as we can. Hey, we're still getting a feed in HD. Why not? I just saved myself $80 or $50 or whatever the price tag is. That's how they justify it. Is it right? Absolutely not, guys. Absolutely not. You have to. If you want to see these big fights materialize, you have to start financially supporting these events. Okay? Piracy is the biggest issue in boxing, and that's the entire reason why we don't see more fights featuring the best fighting the best. Because these promoters and networks have absolutely no confidence that the real bosses of boxing, the fans, are going to purchase this. Joe also states, is PBC under pressure to do big fights? Of course. Look, it's no coincidence, Joe, that Look at the PBC calendar. It's been lights out on both Showtime and Fox this summer. And why? Because these are 2 contract years. Guys, make no mistake about it. Look at this year compared to last. It's like night and day. So, memo to all networks. Make sure if you sign a contract with PBC, make sure you keep them on a 1-year agreement. Make sure you keep them on that 1-year leash, because look at the product that fans are finally getting. Guys, this is what, with their massive roster, without a doubt, the largest roster of any promotional entity. This is what fans have expected. Look what we're getting. Guys, we're getting Pacquiao Spence. We're getting Canelo Plant. And now it looks like we're going to be getting, hopefully, Terence Crawford versus Shawn Porter. I am hoping that Triller or PBC or Matchroom Sport wins this purse bid and puts it on one of their networks. Because once again, if I had to bet money, I would say that Bob Arum is no longer in the Terence Crawford business. And even if Terence Crawford did want to re-sign with Top Rank wouldn't be interested, because it's just not cost effective within their budget. Keep in mind, guys, Top Rank, they receive $84 million per annum by ESPN. And they're expected to stage 30 events per year. You do the math. That's not even $3 million per event. That's what they have to work with. And Terence Crawford's big $4 million guarantee per fight, and that's not even including the opponent, guys. Think about the Kell Brook fight. That cost ESPN and Top Rank $6 million of their per annum budget. Okay, so at Top Rank, if you ask me, they are no longer in the Terence Crawford business, which is why you haven't seen, and once again, evidence of this. They had the opportunity to stage Terence Crawford versus Manny Pacquiao earlier this year, right? Bob Arum said, "Nope, I have no confidence that fans are going to pay for this," which is why I'm not going to stage this event. Again, Manny Pacquiao was not under contract with PBC. He was a free agent. He fulfilled his contractual obligation with that Keith Thurman fight. He was free to fight whomever he wanted. He was about to sign a deal to fight Terence Crawford on ESPN pay-per-view. But that was contingent upon getting a huge site fee from Dubai, right? And the United Arab Emirates. That money fell through, so the fight fell through. Once again, Bob Arum had the option of still staging that fight, giving Manny Pacquiao that huge purse, that huge $40 million guarantee, but he was like, nope, I have no confidence that these guys are going to purchase this event, and I'm not in the business of losing money, so we're going to have to take a hard pass on that. That told me everything. That spoke volumes. That said it all, that Bob Arum is no longer in the Terence Crawford business, right? And guys, we just reported on Fight Saga this past week, my brother Corey Bradshaw, an excellent article he wrote, basically claiming that according to co-trainer Red Spikes, Terence Crawford's co-trainer, longtime team member and virtual family member, Red Spikes, he stated as much that, yeah, we are leaving Top Rank after we fulfill our final contractual obligation in October. So it only makes sense that this fight is being made, that Team Porter lobbied, petitioned the WBO to intervene and to mandate this fight. Guys, don't be surprised if this fight gets made very quickly and gets announced. Don't be surprised if PBC elects to stage this event on PBC Fox in October. Don't be surprised if they win the purse bid. But how well will it do on pay-per-view? Like I said, you've got two guys who aren't big pay-per-view draws, but expect big pay-per-view dollars. Both guys are requesting, between an $8 and $10 million overall purse. That's huge, guys. So as a promoter, you have no choice. Out of necessity, you have to put this on the pay-per-view revenue stream. You have no choice, right? Because the purse is too big. You have no choice but to put it on pay-per-view. Is it a pay-per-view fight? Will it sell, though? So Money Man joined us. Thank you, brother, for tuning in. He says it is a pay-per-view fight. Well, unfortunately, it is out of necessity because of what I just stated. Promoters will have no choice but to put this on pay-per-view. Now, are you trying to say that it deserves to be on pay-per-view, regardless of the gigantic purse? Is it going to do well? Are fight fans going to finally purchase this one? In my opinion, because fans have been clamoring to see Terence Crawford against one of the elite at 47. I think, guys, this is going to do extremely well. In fact, I think it does anywhere between 400 and 500,000 purchases. I think fans have been thirsty to see Terence Crawford tangle with the elite at 47. I think this is a great fight, and I think the real bosses of boxing show up and turn out and throw down for this one. So Kush the Greatest joins us. He says, so Shawn was truly called as the mandatory. It was up to Shawn Porter to petition to the WBO to elevate him to mandatory challenger status. And one of the reasons why he was very reluctant to doing that, because he understands if they can't strike a deal and this goes to purse bid, he's only entitled to 25% of the purse. In my opinion, PBC, Shawn Porter, the reason why they're making this maneuver, I think they're going to strike a deal very similar to Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, in which PBC and Tom Brown Promotions is responsible for the guaranteed purse of Shawn Porter, and Bob Arum in a co-promotional effort will be responsible solely for Terence Crawford's purse. I think they're both going to pay them $5 million apiece to make this, and it's going to be on ESPN pay-per-view. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Where can I find this? You want to see the proof of this? It's been reported already. Let's see. Hold on. Yep. Where can I find this? I'm going to put the link to the article announcing this. Jake Donovan just announced it on Boxing Scene. There it is. I just put up the link, guys. So Kush the Greatest says, I'll buy it. Thank you, sir. So will I. Money Man states it only does 200,000 buys. Let me ask you something, brother. Gervonta Davis versus Mario Barrios did 200,000 buys. You don't think that Terence versus Shawn does better? A much better matchup for a real major world title, the WBO at 147, in a fight that boxing fans have been clamoring for at least a good year. Money Man says at least. Yes, at the very least. Guys, I'll be very disappointed in all of the boxing fans if they don't turn up for this one. Joe Strummer states they need a good undercard. Unfortunately, brother, because these guys are going to be, their purse is going to be so big. Like I said, combined, you're looking at it between an $8 and $10 million purse guaranteed. Because they're going to be taking all the money, I'll be very surprised if it's a great undercard. But you just never know. I mean, look at the undercard that we were supposed to be getting, or that we're still going to be getting in October for Wilder versus Fury. One of the best undercards of the year. A heavyweight undercard. It was outstanding. It doesn't do more than Pac or Wilder. I agree wholeheartedly. Once again, that was one of the reasons why Bob was reluctant to put this fight together. because he felt that this wasn't a pay-per-view fight. But because of all the money that both Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter was demanding, well, he would have no choice but to put it on ESPN pay-per-view out of necessity. And guys, it's important you guys realize that some pay-per-view fights are on the pay-per-view revenue stream, not because it's a great premium matchup like Andy Ruiz versus Chris Arreola. It's because one or both fighters are demanding and expecting too much money. Think about Andy Ruiz. In his most recent fight before the Chris Arreola fight, he made $12 million defending his titles against Anthony Joshua in the Middle East. So after that, you really think he's going to expect to make only $1 million after making $12 million in his previous outing? No, he wanted much, much more than that, which is why that fight was on pay-per-view out of necessity, not because it was a great pay-per-view deserving matchup. Guys, this is what has to happen. Look, if piracy is going to continue to be a huge issue, right, then fighters need to understand this, and they need to be more realistic in their guaranteed purses. Okay, stop demanding so much effing money unless you can prove that you attract great pay-per-view figures. Start being more realistic and understand your realistic market value. Remember, guys, it's the real bosses of boxing, you guys, it's the fans that determine the market value of every fighter and every matchup. What are you guys going to be willing to spend your money on? That's what determines these purses, and that's why we have such a problem getting the best fighters fighting against the best, right? Kush the Greatest says, I think they could do 350,000. I'm in agreement, brother. Money Man says 400,000 at the most. Streaming too bad. God bless you, Kush. Thank you for tuning in, brother. Joseph, will Pac pay-per-view do over 500,000? That's a very good question, my friend. He did 500,000 with Keith Thurman, and considering this is against a much stronger A-side like Errol Spence Jr., a much bigger attraction like Errol Spence Jr., and also considering that most people believe this is going to be Manny Pacquiao's last fight ever as a professional prize fighter in his legendary career, right? I think this is going to do at least 800 to 900,000 purchases, may even hit the $1 million mark or $1 million viewer mark. I think it's going to do really well. Once again, Spence is a much stronger A-side, or much stronger attraction rather, than Keith Thurman. And because this is Pac-Man's last fight before he retires and rides off into the sunset, I think it's going to do much better than 500,000. Moneyman states, if you pay Amir Khan, Porter is definitely worth pay-per-view. See, say what you want about Amir Khan, right? Leading up to that dismal pay-per-view, he actually had a big fan base. Shawn Porter's never had a sizable fan base. Never. In fact, he's never been an A-side headliner in a major prize fight. He's always been when he's been featured in the main event, he's always been the B-side. He's never been a huge financial commodity in boxing. Great fighter, and he's an elite level talent at 47, consistently fighting in elite level matchups, but he's never been a huge financial draw. Our brother Muhammad visits us. Thank you, Muhammad. Salute, Joseph. Bud stops Porter, signs with PBC. The pressure will be unbearable for Spence. Guys, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, I can't say that he stops Porter because Porter is a gym rat. He is always in incredible condition. He's always in the gym. Physically and mentally, he is one of the most durable fighters in boxing. Even though you can hurt Shawn Porter and you can even knock him down, he's never come close to being stopped. Not against Thurman, not against Spence, not against Brook, not against anybody. So I do think Crawford beats him on points, but I think it's going to be an awesome fight. I think it's going to be very entertaining, in which you're going to see, well, Porter have his moments, and you may see Porter even knocked down, maybe even a couple times. But until I see someone stop Porter, yeah, I'll have to think that he's going to go the distance. But I will say this. If Crawford is the first man to not only defeat Porter, but stop him within the distance, if he's the very first man to stop him within the distance, guys, that's going to be something. And I would have to put Terence Crawford back as my number one pound-for-pound fighter in boxing. That's something, guys. To stop a real gym rat and someone who's as physically and mentally durable as Porter, that is really something. That would be a huge accomplishment for Terence Crawford. But once again, that's just a hypothetical. Until it happens, we'll have to see it to believe it. But I tell you what, though, yes, Terence Crawford, I've already, and once again, it's on Fight Saga. We published an article last week announcing, and once again, this was announced by Terence Crawford's trainer, co-trainer, Red Spikes, longtime team member, that yes, Terence Crawford, after his final fight on this contract, he will be leaving Top Rank, and he will be crossing the street finally to PBC. And guys, expect Terence Crawford, if he gets past Shawn Porter, big if he gets past Shawn Porter, we will finally see in the spring of 2022 Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. But once again, Spence has to get past Pacquiao, and Crawford has to get past Shawn Porter. Those are two big ifs, guys, but they will be favored. You better believe it. Joe Strummer states, Joseph, I believe if Spence doesn't stop Pac, he will duck Crawford. Look, in my opinion, I think everyone has been waiting for Terence Crawford's, and I truly believe this, that Heyman and Spence, the only reason why that fight wasn't made prior, it wasn't made previously, wasn't made already, because they've been waiting for Crawford's contract to expire with Top Rank. They've been waiting for it, right? Guys, make no mistake, upon speaking with several people involved, right, with Top Rank as well as Terence Crawford, yeah, Terence Crawford's leaving, and you're going to see Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford in the spring of 2020, the first big event of 2022, I'm sorry. Mark my words, guys, that's on the horizon. Spence is fearless. Now, once again, he's got his marching orders. But, guys, make no mistake about it, all of these guys are fearless, right? They believe that they can beat any man on any given day. In fact, if they received life-changing money and a career-high payday, they would step in the ring with King Kong tomorrow. That's how confident all of these guys are, especially an undefeated champion like Errol Spence Jr. He's not afraid of any 47-pounder, including Terence Crawford. Moneyman states he doesn't stop Porter and Errol Hagler like body pressure stops Crawford late. Wow. Wow. I tell you what, I hope we get to see it play out. I hope we get to see it play out, guys, because this is what fight fans have been waiting for. This is the big one. I hope Terence Crawford versus Shawn Porter is just a preview for the ultimate fight at 47 to determine ultimate supremacy. right? Muhammad states, Joseph, do you think Mikey will agree to a 50-50 split versus Tank, or will he want more? Muhammad, I think you already know the answer to that by asking, or will he want more? Brother, this is the reason why Mikey Garcia hasn't been in any meaningful fight since the Errol Spence fight, because he demands too much money. You hear him negotiating with Pac-Man, with Regis Prograis, with Tank Davis, with whomever, and it never gets done. Why? Because he doesn't understand his realistic market value. Look, if he received $7 million to fight Jesse Vargas from Matchroom Sport, how much do you think he's going to demand to fight Gervonta Davis? And there's your answer. There's no way that fight gets made. No way. I'll be shocked if Mikey lands a Tank Davis fight. In my opinion, he's going to demand way too much. And that's the story of Mikey Garcia. And until he actually becomes a little more humble and understands his realistic market value, he's never going to be in another meaningful fight, guys. He might as well retire. Crawford will invade PBC like a hungry lion, hunting for everything at 47 and 54. No hiding from him in those weight classes. I wholeheartedly agree, brother. Whether or not he beats the elite, well, that's another story. But I can't wait to see it unfold, guys. This is what boxing's all about. And this is what we've been waiting for. Do you have any details regarding Canelo's single fight deal with PBC? I'm surprised Heyman is accepting a one-off deal. Excuse me. Very good question, Muhammad. The only thing that I've been told is that it's going to be Canelo will be receiving upwards around $40 million, a career high payday for this. So that means, guys, from what I've been told, Canelo versus Plant on pay-per-view will have a price point of $100. Are you ready for that? Can you believe that? $100 to see Canelo versus Plant on Fox pay-per-view. And why? Because you're looking at an overall combined purse of $50 million with Caleb Plant receiving 10. Can you believe that? $50 million guaranteed. So that means, guys, the real bosses of boxing, the fans, are going to have to pay $100 now to watch Canelo versus Caleb Plant. My question to you guys is the De La Hoya pay-per-view event on Triller the Saturday before, is it going to affect sales of Canelo versus Plant? De La Hoya and Triller, they're very smart in scheduling that event the Saturday before Mexican Independence Day weekend, scheduling it the Saturday before Canelo versus Plant. And it's going to be much cheaper. It's only going to be $50. And guys, I hate to say it, but De La Hoya versus Belfort appeals to a much larger mainstream and casual demographic. Mainstream and casuals know exactly who the Golden Boy is. They know exactly who Belfort is. No one knows who the hell Caleb Plant is outside of the diehard boxing community. So, guys, that's an interesting question. And, guys, I'm going to share my thoughts on that in article form. Look for it tomorrow on FightSaga.com. Moving to the next comment. Crawford was dropped by Mean Machine. Yes, he was. Crawford is highly skilled, but his mean streak will get him dropped. I don't think his chin is ready. You know what? That's a very good point in bringing up Crawford's only apparent deficiency, and that's his, willingness to throw down, and also his deficiencies in fighting on the inside. But keep in mind, you're talking about two different level of punchers. Like him or not, guys, and Virgil Ortiz is going to find out on August 14th that Igas Velasquez is arguably the hardest puncher in the 147-pound weight division. No, he's not the most skilled. No, he's not the most versatile, but he is arguably the hardest puncher in the division. Virgil Ortiz is going to find that out very, very quickly in that fight. That's a tremendous matchup, and we'll be covering that live in Frisco, which is right outside of Dallas, Texas. Can't wait for that one. And Shawn Porter, in comparison, I love Shawn, but he is not even close to being one of the hardest punchers in the division. In fact, if you listen to Errol Spence or Keith Thurman, they will insist that Shawn Porter, all as good as he is, as technically skilled as he is, he's got pillow fists. That's what that, and now once again, that's according to Keith Thurman and Errol Spence Jr., right? So those are two different things. Can Shawn Porter, look, any man, any skilled fighter at this level can hurt any other fighter. But yeah, Shawn Porter is not a guy who's known for his world-class power. Igas Kavaliauskas is. That's the difference, brother. Crawford doesn't beat Spence, Lubin, Charlo, Ennis, PBC killers. Well, there's only one way to find out now, isn't there? Let's hope we see it, brother. They might name the Canelo versus Plant pay-per-view witness history and bank on 1 million buys. I hope you're right, Mohammed, because we need these events to do well. Look at the schedule. It's brilliant. The calendar is finally coming together, guys. We need all of you to financially support the best fighting the best. Guys, don't make any excuses. Purchase these events, guys. Our beloved boxing it needs us, right? Now, once again, our beloved boxing needs us. We need to start financially supporting these events. No more illegal streaming when it's the best fighting the best. If it's matchups that we've been asking to see, reward the fighters, reward the promoters for finally giving us fights that we want to see on pay-per-view, and throw down your money for these. It's worth it, guys. It's worth it. When everyone involved in the industry finally does the bidding, answers the call of the real bosses of boxing, the long-suffering fans of the sport, it's up to us to return that gratitude, to show them our gratitude. I'm urging everyone to purchase all of these great events as they come up on the boxing calendar. Canelo is famous with the Latinos. Mexican culture is awesome. I would agree with that. The demographic, mainstream and otherwise, that religiously, financially supports our beloved boxing. Yes, credit to the Mexicanos. I'm one of them. Spence destroys Mean Machine. You know what, brother? I think Spence destroys I don't know about destroys, but I think he beats everyone in the division who isn't named Jaron Ennis or Terence Crawford. And, he might beat them. But without a doubt, I say he beats everyone else. He's a complete fighter, guys. Errol Spence Jr. is the real deal, in case you didn't know. And Manny Pacquiao is going to find out on August 21st what a complete fighter Errol Spence is. Not only does he have one of the best jabs in boxing, but he has underrated deceptive footwork where he can slide in and out of range. He has an excellent defense. Also, he's one of the most effective aggressors in boxing. When Pacquiao tries to use the entire ring, Errol Spence is one of the best fighters in boxing at cutting off the ring, closing the distance, and effectively throwing in combination on the inside. He is one of the best inside fighters in boxing, guys. And in my opinion, when Spence fights Crawford, this is going to be determined by distance. If Spence pushes the fight and forces Crawford to fight on the inside, advantage Spence. If Spence elects to try and fight Crawford from mid to long range, advantage Crawford. But guys, that's the fight that everyone wants to see, and that's the fight we're finally going to get. Thank you, Terence, for leaving Top Rank Inc. But Spence destroys Mean Machine. I think he beats him. I don't know about destroys, but I think he beats him. Mohammed states, do you see Virgil Ortiz taking over the Mexican dates from Canelo? Not anytime soon, my friend. Not anytime soon. Virgil has still a long way to go. And to be honest with you, I really don't like this fight for Virgil Ortiz. Now, it's funny, whenever you have a red-hot prospect and a guy that has the potential of becoming one of the biggest stars of the sport, Don Chargan, one of the greatest promoters, Don Warwick Chargan, and the show's namesake, right? The show is named in homage to the great Don Chargan. He taught me everything I know about the sport of boxing, about the business of boxing. He always told me, he said, look, Joseph, whenever I have a red-hot prospect, I try to keep him away from punchers as long as I possibly can. Virgil Ortiz will be facing arguably the hardest puncher in the division on August 14th. So he's got to get past Egas before we start talking about Canelo passing the torch. But yes, Oscar wouldn't mind. Shawn ain't dropping anyone. Thank you, Kush. That's absolutely right. Shawn ain't dropping anyone. But I tell you what, boy, he's going to give everyone he faces fits with that mauling, smothering style. And once again, he's been getting better in each fight. He's been showing improvement. Do you remember back when he fought Kell Brook, that he would just smother his own offense, and all Kell Brook had to do was just wrap him up, allow the referee to separate him, and it was an easy fight for him? A very uncomfortable and unattractive fight, but it was relatively easy for Kell Brook. Well, Shawn has improved since then. He now mixes strategies, as evidenced in that Errol Spence fight. He will fight you behind the jab. He's got a brilliant jab that he doesn't use nearly as often as he should. He fights beautifully from mid to long range. And he will pivot around you after firing off a combination from mid to short range. He is becoming a complete fighter and getting better with each outing. So don't sleep on Shawn Porter. In your opinion, is Teofimo messing up his momentum, brother? If you've been listening to the show, and I know you have, you already know the answer to that. I told you that Teofimo was making a huge mistake by not working out a deal with Bob Arum to stage the Cambosos fight on ESPN. Now look where we're at now. I was right. Joseph, Joe Strummer, Brother Joe, hanging with us. Thank you, sir. Joseph says, Joseph, do you think the weight cut drains Spence of his power? No, I think it's his volume punching. Now, once again, Emmanuel Stewart taught me this. I was lucky enough, guys, to work and do PR work and ring announcing for Emmanuel Stewart and all of his club shows and his little casino shows, right? In fact, before Tony Superbad Harrison was signed by PBC and started working with Al Heyman, I announced one of his first fights. He was only 8-0, right, with 8 knockouts. And one of the things that Emmanuel taught me, he actually said, look, Joseph, it's what I call the boxing triangle. If you combine 2 of these 3 items, you sacrifice the third. For example, if you combine speed with volume, you'll sacrifice power. If you combine speed with power, you'll ultimately sacrifice volume. And if you sacrifice volume with power, you'll sacrifice speed. And if you're dumb enough to try and combine all 3, well, then you'll sacrifice your endurance, and you'll become only a 3 or 4 round fighter. Emmanuel Stewart taught me that. So do I think the weight cut drains his power? No, I think it's his volume. If he just sat down more of his shots and didn't throw so many damn punches, yeah, he would show his power once again. But once again, when he steps up at elite level competition at 147 pounds, boy, he depends on that work rate and that jab, right? So if you've been noticing, and I know you guys all have, you can watch all these major fights. If you've been noticing in Spence's last two performances, he is elected to punch at the target and not through it. He's not nearly sitting down on his punches nearly as much as he was, and he's throwing at a much higher work rate. Is that going to change against Manny Pacquiao? I don't think so. Money. Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank you for subscribing to WAWR Week Radio, brother. And once again, just to give you guys a heads up this Friday, because of all because of all the conspiracy theories and all of the cheating and robbery allegations, the poor judging from this past Saturday's main event in San Antonio, Charlo versus Castaño, we're inviting a veteran judge from the Texas State Athletic Commission, Mr. Joel Elizondo, a very good friend of mine. He's going to come on the show and answer any of your questions. So, guys, please get them ready. That's something to look forward to. And have at it. He'll answer whatever you guys want, and he'll talk to you about the inner workings of the Texas State Athletic Commission, the very controversial Texas State Athletic Commission. So I hope you can tune in for that, money man. God bless you, brother. Tio and Ryan know there is time. Their time is limited soon as Shakur, Devin, or Tank fight happens. Now, to be honest with you, brother, I think you may see, and this is a controversial take on this, in my opinion, you may see Golden Boy Promotions just throw in Ryan Garcia in a huge sink or swim pay-per-view event opposite Teofimo, or opposite Tank Davis, my apologies. And why? Because they are very uncertain of Ryan Garcia's future in the sport of boxing at this point. They don't know if he's going to have another episode and just retire. In my opinion, guys, you're going to see Ryan Garcia fight Tank Davis in a sink or swim fight. Golden Boy is like, you know what? We are not investing any more money in this cat until we know where his head's at, until we know his intentions are for the long game, are long term. So as of right now, guys, don't be surprised if you see Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia, because De La Hoya, boy, he needs money, he needs ratings, he needs TV dates. And they really don't know. The future of Ryan Garcia is very uncertain. Don't be shocked when you see that announced within a couple months. Spence moves up. Mohammed, thank you for hanging with us still, brother. If Spence moves up to 154 and Charlo is still a champion, and if Charlo is still a champion there and both don't want to face each other, what's the point? In my opinion, Mohammed, what's going to happen is after this rematch with Brian Castaño, Jermell Charlo is going to have no choice but to move up to 160. In my opinion, guys, one of the reasons why he didn't go for broke when he obviously had Brian Castaño hurt badly in the 10th is because he was questioning his conditioning. If you saw him at the weigh-in, and guys, I was there covering the sport, covering the fight for Fight Saga. I was at the weigh-in right there. He looked emaciated. He looked drawn. In my opinion, at 31 years of age and a 6-foot fighter, just like his brother, he can no longer comfortably make 154. He made 153 easy, but you could see he was questioning his conditioning throughout the entire fight. At least that was my perspective and my perception when I was at ringside. Muhammad states, they say that Fury Wilder 3 already sold 14 million in tickets. Well, Mohammed, if you listen to the show, and I know you, we already told you that. That was a bunch of crap. Eddie Hearn's accusations that tickets weren't selling well. We already told you when I did the interview with Bruce Trampler, matchmaker for Top Rank, he said, look, not only were tickets doing well, but our advanced pay-per-view sales were already well above what we did for the second fight. They had already surpassed their targeted advanced pay-per-view sales. Guys, I had no idea if this was going to happen, but hey, it's happened. The third fight between Wilder and Fury could actually be the biggest one of the three. I think they have a very good chance this time of surpassing the 1 million viewer mark or the 1 million purchase mark this time around because of all of the conspiracy nonsense, because of all the bad blood, because of the retribution claim. Yeah, I think this has the potential to surpass the last fight in terms of pay-per-view sales. Let's scroll up again. Moneyman states, if I'm Ryan's promoters, Tio is our target. Don't count on that. In my opinion, Teofimo Lopez is going to be very busy. And in my opinion, unless Devin Haney signs with PBC, I think you're going to see Teofimo Lopez versus Lomachenko next. If he gets past Kambosos, and then you're going to see Teofimo Lopez move up to 140 pounds and face Devin Haney if Haney isn't already signed with PBC. In my opinion, guys, when you look at all of the talent at 130, 135, and 140, in my opinion, Devin Haney should sign with Top Rank Inc. Now, once again, guys, if you're a young fighter, how do you know who to sign with when you're looking to sign for a major promoter? Well, that's very simple. Two things. How many TV dates does your promoter have? Top Rank has 30 every single year, right? And number two, how much competition fights under the Top Rank banner or under that promotional banner in my desired weight division? And when you look at all of the premium and elite fighters at 30, 35, and 40, boy, Devin Haney could stay very busy over the next 3 years should he sign with Top Rank. Guys, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. Devin Haney should sign with Top Rank. He'll get all the smoke that he wants at 35 and 40. And in my opinion, guys, if he's smart and he signs with Top Rank, if he and Bill are smart, and they look at those two variables, if they sign with Top Rank, you're going to see Teofimo Lopez fight Devin Haney at the tail end of 2022. So Muhammad says, so basically you're saying Oscar wants to cash out with Ryan. I'm not completely counting out Garcia against Tank. That's exactly what I'm saying, Muhammad. And you know what? Even though I would give Tank Davis the clear advantage in that matchup, you can't count out a guy blessed with the kind of power and speed and natural athletic gifts of Ryan Garcia. He's got a height and reach advantage, and boy, he's quick with that powerful check left hook. Guys, when you have that kind of power and you have that kind of neutralizer, you're in every single fight. You can't count out Ryan Garcia, no matter what the style matchup is. Peter, thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for joining us, my brother. I never wanted the Barrera-Morales one fight because they were two of my favorite boxers. Then we got a trilogy of badass fights. Yes, sir. I feel the same way about Spence versus Crawford today, my top two fighters right now. Well, you have a good eye, Peter. Let me tell you, there's so much to like about both 147 badasses, right? Guys, and once again, this has been my argument the whole time. When I hear all of the criticism of Terence Crawford. Oh, he needs to fight this guy. Oh, he needs to. Look, there's only one fight that affects Terence Crawford's legacy because he's already a first, whether you agree with it or not, this is the reality. He's already a first ballot Hall of Famer in the minds of the guys who would be voting him in, the boxing writers, because of everything that he's done at 35, 40, and 47. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer already. The only matchup that affects his legacy is one against Errol Spence Jr. Number one versus number two. Who's number one? Well, we really don't know that definitively until they fight. Think about this, guys. If Terence Crawford fought Keith one-time Thurman and beat him, would that matter? No. Every fan would still be saying, well, he still hasn't fought Spence. That's the only fight that has any kind of detriment either way to his legacy. And both men realize that. Will it matter if he beats Yordenis Ugas? No. Will it matter if he beats Showtime Shawn Porter? No. Will it matter if he beats Keith Thurman? No. Everyone will still be demanding him to fight Errol Spence Jr. And that's the reality, guys. So, yes, I'm with you, brother. And hopefully we get to see this. I think just from what I know and what I've been told, I think that's exactly what we're going to see in spring of 2022. We're going to finally see Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. Who do you favor, guys? Who do you think wins that fight? Because in my opinion, flip a coin, guys. Like I said earlier in the show, it's going to all depend on where this fight is fought in terms of range and distance. If Errol Spence Jr. gets Terence Crawford to fight him in the pocket, advantage Errol Spence. If Errol Spence tries to fight Terence Crawford at a distance, advantage Terence Crawford. But other than that, it's a pick'em fight. Joe Strummer states, do you think Tank stops any of the top boxers at 35 or 40? It's been my experience, guys. And if you think very hard, like back, if you look at your boxing history, other than the heavyweight division, very few matchups at the elite level end with a decisive and resounding KO. Very seldom. Now, of course, KOs often happen. They occasionally happen at this level, but very rarely do you ever see an elite level matchup end with a resounding or decisive knockout. Guys, perfect example. Look at two of the heaviest, hardest pound-for-pound punchers in boxing. Squaring off twice, Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin. How many fans thought that that fight would end in a knockout? Because both guys are elite level fighters, both physically, mentally, in terms of offense and defense. A knockout is very few and far in between. So do I think Tank stops any of the top fighters at 35 or 40? Probably not. But can he? Yeah, he's got that ultimate neutralizer. Tank has sick, explosive one-punch knockout power, but does he stop the top guys in any of those divisions? I don't think so. I would have to see it to believe it. Put it this way, at 35, his best chance for knocking out anyone who's considered elite would have to be Ryan Garcia, because he's green and makes way too many mistakes. I can't see him fighting a technically savvy fighter like Devin Haney. I can't see him stopping a technically proficient fighter like Vasyl Lomachenko. And I can't see him fighting a very smart and explosive fighter like Teofimo Lopez. He has the best chance at 35 to stop Ryan Garcia. And at 40, well, he's definitely not stopping Josh Taylor. Definitely not stopping Jose Ramirez. I don't think he stops Regis Prograis. Those guys, or all three of those guys, are very physically and mentally durable. Once again, at the elite level, Very few elite level matchups end in a knockout, right? So guys, we're running out of time here, but we're going to try to get through all of these questions. Joe Strummer states they always lie about ticket sales like the last Charlo fight. Look, guys, and once again, when you're an investigative journalist, right, when you're reporting, if you guys, and once again, this is how we think, right? Whenever we tackle an issue or write about an issue, the first thing we always think is, what's the motive? So when you're thinking about this, well, why don't they announce pay-per-view? Why? Because they used to always shoot out a press release to the boxing media, Showtime and HBO both, announcing what pay-per-view sales were. Well, think about this. What's the motive and who benefits from them not shooting out those press releases any longer? Why wouldn't they want to announce pay-per-view figures? Well, it's pretty obvious, guys. When you think about motive and who benefits from it, well, there's your answer. It's pretty obvious. That's why they do it, guys, because numbers haven't been good. And once again, guys, make no mistake about it. Piracy remains the biggest issue in boxing. It affects everything. Like a lot of writers will insist, oh, it's the best not fighting the best. Well, why do you think that's happening? Why do you think the best aren't fighting the best as frequently? Oh, it's because of different alliances and promoters and different networks. No. Because these promoters don't have any confidence that the real bosses of boxing, the fans, are going to purchase these events any longer. That's how big the piracy issue is in the business of boxing, guys. Financially support your beloved boxing. Like I said, like I always say, guys, on this show, if you want boxing to love you back, you've got to financially support it. And there's no other way around it. Tio, not fighting Devin. You know what? I hope you're wrong, Money Man. Look, here's definitively. If Devin Haney does not sign with Top Rank, you're absolutely right. Then that fight will never happen. Otherwise, Teofimo Lopez, as confident as he is, he's brimming with confidence. He truly believes he'll not only beat any fighter, but he'll knock them out. So if you're trying to insinuate that he doesn't want that kind of smoke from Devin Haney, boy, he'll fight Godzilla if the payday is right. But I tell you what, we'll see. But I look, Money Man, I agree with you. If Devin ends up signing with PBC, which he very well may, you're right. He won't be fighting him. Brother Ray, thank you for joining us, my friend. Yes or no, is Ryan planning on leaving De La Hoya for Canelo? In my opinion, no one knows what's going to happen with Ryan Garcia. This is why, in my opinion, you're going to see Goldie pull the trigger on Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia later this year, because they absolutely have no confidence that this guy is going to be in boxing 2 or 3 years from now. Because of where his mind's at, because of how he's acted in 2021, they have no confidence what he's going to do. They have no confidence that he's going to be even in the sport next year. So in my opinion, they go for broke and they just roll the dice, sticking him in the ring with Gervonta Davis later this year. And it's going to be a huge fight, huge money-making pay-per-view, because both guys possess that mainstream juice. Money Man, Tank hurts Ryan. Yes, I can totally see him hurting Ryan Garcia. I can see him knocking him out. But I can also see Ryan Garcia hurting Tank Davis as well. But when you look at that deep amateur pedigree of Gervonta Davis, and he all showed us in his last fight against Mario Barrios what a smart, technically crafty fighter he is. Yes, I would heavily favor Tank Davis over Ryan Garcia. The problem with Haney signing with Top Rank is the purse. Devin is used to getting $3 million per fight with Hearn, hence the reason why he's a free agent now, Muhammad. That is a very astute observation, my brother, and that's the reason why he's still unsigned as of now. Until he realizes his realistic market value and understands that he's not worth, not yet anyway, he's not worth at this time a guaranteed $3 million per fight. Until he lowers and understands his realistic market value, he's going to have a problem signing with anybody, including PBC. That's a very good observation, though, brother. And we're going to take just 3 more comments, guys, and then I'm going to have to get out of here. But Muhammad states also, do you have any scenario for Thurman to get back to the top floor, or is it too late? That's entirely up to him. If I had to guess, though, brother, if he's done whatever he's done in the sport of boxing, or whatever he was going to do in the sport of boxing, I think he's already done it. Look, and he's not an old guy, but he's been riddled with injury, and he just doesn't seem to have that desire, that hunger, like he used to have when he was fighting on Golden Boy promotional fight cards, right? When I saw him fight and I interviewed him, it's on my page and you can still see it archived. When I interviewed him before his fight with Jesus Soto Caras, before he won his first major world title, boy, he was full of hunger. He wanted all the smoke. Now, he's almost like that groundhog. In fact, he's been about as active as Gary Russell Jr. In my opinion, as long as Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. are number 1 and 2 at 47 or 54, he's never going to win another major world title. As long as those guys have the titles, he's never going to win another one. He's had, in my opinion, his best days in boxing are behind him. No, he's not a shot fighter. I'm not implying that, but he's definitely on the back 9. And guys, when you've made all of that money, and you're like George Foreman said, when you start to sleep in silk pajamas, it's very difficult to force yourself to grind in the gym on the daily. Kua, is that how you pronounce that? Thank you for joining us, brother. Q, Haney versus JoJo. You know what? I like this fight, but I am favoring Devin Haney because of the natural size, reach advantage. And even though JoJo is an aggressive-minded fighter, former Olympian, he can fight you in the pocket, he can fight you at range, he doesn't have the natural power to be able to get that respect from Devin Haney at 135 pounds. Look, at 122 and 126, he had good power. At 135, correct me if I'm wrong, brother, but I just didn't see it against Javier Fortuna. But he did show his ability to fight at multiple ranges, from mid to long range as well as in the pocket. Boy, he showed his craft. And in my opinion, that was the difference in the fight. Javier Fortuna has always been a guy who likes to fight from mid to long range. And he could not keep up with the pace fighting on the inside by Jojo Diaz, a very underrated technical fighter. Once again, former Olympian. But will he beat Devin Haney? Nope. In my opinion, he just does not have the power to do it. Guys, to get that respect from Devin Haney, boy, you've got to have some crack in your shot. Final 2 questions. Moneyman, thank you for joining us, brother. And once again, thank you for subscribing, my friend. Moneyman states, Tio, feet when getting hit are stuck in the mud. He doesn't beat Devin. You may be right, and that's a very astute observation, Moneyman. Despite the reflexes, the natural athletic ability that Teofimo Lopez has, if you look at statistic, guys, he gets hit way too often now, doesn't he? Even though he is one of the more athletic or one of the more offensively potent fighters in the division. Boy, he's got some work to do on defense, and it's shocking because when you look at the radar that he has, the reflexes that he should be able to pick off these shots when they're incoming. But he has a problem. Guys, you look at the Nakatani fight. You look at the Lomachenko fight in the back half. He gets touched up, and he catches way too much incoming, shockingly, for a fighter with his reflexes and his natural athletic gifts. That's an excellent observation, Money Man, and you may be right. Final question. I want to thank everyone for joining us. From my brother Joe Strummer. That Barrios fight looked fake. A lot of people think it was fixed. Guys, Mario Barrios from San Antonio. In fact, I'm getting his co-trainer, Mr. Ricky Nunez. He's going to be on our show next week. And I can tell you firsthand that Mario Barrios has way too much pride to take a dive or be intimidated by anybody. Was he hurt in the 11th round of that fight when the fight was stopped? Absolutely. But upon speaking with Ricky and Mario, they are convinced that the ref called a halt to the bout too quickly. And because Mario's a good dude and it's not in his nature to complain, he didn't say anything because he was obviously hurt. But if you talk to him, and once again, you'll have the opportunity to next week to ask him any questions that you want, he'll insist that he could have continued and possibly finished the fight. So no, it wasn't fixed. It was just a strange stoppage, though, wasn't it, Joe? Like when you think about referee Taylor, right? When you think about the situation in which he was hurt and he looked like he turned and almost went down, but he stayed on his feet, and then referee Taylor just waved it off and called a halt to the bout. Yeah, that was a little odd now, wasn't it? It looked a little suspect, but no. Mario Barrios has too much pride. And no, I don't think I thought the referee did a fine job up to that point. I don't think it was a fix. But I don't think Mario Barrios is going to get a rematch. Upon speaking with him, guys, don't be surprised if you see him joining the pack at 147 pounds later this year. I think a huge part of his lack of punch output was not only his respect for Gervonta Davis's power, but also, boy, he had a hard time shedding that weight and making 140 continuously. In my opinion, and just upon speaking with Ricky and Mario, that's the last fight you're going to see him at 140 pounds. Don't be surprised if he joins the elite level or joins the pack of badasses and young guns at 147 pounds later this year. And guys, we're going to feature him as well as his co-trainer, Ricky Nunez, next week on WAWR Week Radio. Yeah, it's getting late. I'm getting sleepy. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you guys hanging with me. And once again, going back to the original topic, great news, everybody. We're finally going to see Shawn Porter challenge Terence Crawford for his WBO welterweight championship. Guys, I can't wait. That is excellent news. And I want to thank you for joining us. In case you missed any part of this show, don't forget to play it back. And don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe to WAWR Week Radio Network. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.